Welcome back to NV Fine Art Studio. I'm Nina, and today I'm starting a new series, Watercolor, Where to Begin. Every time when I do feedback on the paintings from my patrons on the Patreon, I think it would be so much easier to do it with a video. So today I'm starting with the most common issue: how to do a seamless and clean flat wash. Next week we will be doing a gradient wash, where to apply it and how to do it. If you want to practice what we discussed today on a full-scale painting, I welcome you to my Patreon. There are more than 50 videos available, and if you have more questions or want feedback, I have a private Facebook community for this. I named this series Watercolor, Where to Begin. But we all know watercolor is a lifetime apprenticeship, so it doesn't matter when you begin, there is always something new to discover in the world of watercolor. So, no matter where you're at in your watercolor journey, get yourself comfortable, grab a brush, paper, paints, and a bit of water, and let's begin.
Let's start with the brushes and the paper. Today I will be using Nif Elro Castagne number 2 and number 00. I would highly encourage you to use a larger brush, because if you look closely, the larger brush is exactly the same as a smaller one, except it has extra bit below this little bit that holds much more water than a smaller brush. And when I say it holds, it actually holds it. It doesn't release it instantly, it holds it, and it only releases it when you push it against the paper. Which is great, which is exactly what you need to be able to do a controlled wet-on-wet work. I wouldn't recommend using a fully synthetic brush for your first wash, and if you're curious why, please have a look at my YouTube video. The link will be in the description down below. In regards to the paper, I'm using Etcher Watercolor Block 300 GSM 50% cotton. This is the best non-100% cotton paper I've ever worked on. It's great for a smaller size painting or a sketch. I haven't tried it obviously on a larger scale, but I would assume it may not work due to the drying time. But I would highly recommend it for a smaller painting, and this is what we are working on today, so you would be able to see it for yourself. So, today we are talking about washes. Let's start from a simple flat wash. When you do your wash, the most important things to focus on are the mixture consistency, the tonal value, and how you lay the wash. Mixture consistency is a water to paint ratio, how watery or how thick the mixture is. Today we are going to be working with a coffee consistency mixture. It's approximately 70 to 30 water to paint ratio. So we have a full load of water on the brush, spread it on a palette, then grab a touch of paint like that, and then mix it with water. And this is a coffee consistency. As you can see, it's quite fluid. It flows really well on the palette. The tonal value is how saturated the mixture is, how dark the mixture is. Today we will be working in the middle tonal value range, somewhere in between 5 and 7. Right now we are working with tonal value 5. Before you start the wash, make sure you fully load the brush. Scoop everything you can. Then you touch the paper and cover as much surface as possible. Then you load the brush again to make sure that the consistency and value is the same. Touch the previous bead and make the brush mark. It is very important to keep this bead at the end running. This is what takes the wash down. This is what prevents hard edges to form. As long as the bead is there, you can go change the mixture, do something, leave it for a couple of minutes, something like that, and when you come back and do another couple of brush strokes, there is no hard edge. This is the key for a clean, seamless wash. I've just done a wash that looks like a solid square, and you might think how the square relates to a real-life situation. The answer is directly. Every time you paint an object of any shape, this is the technique you use. Just a reminder that if you want to cut out something, cut it out, but keep running the bead. Don't paint separate shapes. Try to avoid sharp borders between the shapes at any cost. Another tip. If you forgot to reload the brush and feel like you are running out of the mixture in your brush, that's okay. You can quickly reload, but when you return to paint, start over the area that got lighter and drier. This way, the wash will still be even and without the hard edges. Now let's talk about a situation when you want to paint with multiple colors. Firstly, you need to make sure that the values and the thickness of the mixtures are consistent in between the colors. Before painting, I'm going to grab my color wheel and check the values. So the yellow is around value 4, the pink is around value 5, and the blue is around value 5. So we need to add more paint to the yellow mixture to achieve value 5. Only when you're happy with the result, you can start painting. Sometimes I actually spend more time mixing and remixing again and again than painting, just to make sure I have the correct mixture. The process with multiple colors is actually the same. So you grab the brush, load with the paint, make sure it's fully loaded, and then make your mark. Touch the previous bead, and as soon as you're done with this color, rinse the brush, touch the sponge, load the brush with new color, and continue painting. When you continue painting, make sure you touch the previous color bead. This will create a nice and soft transition in between the colors. Let's repeat this again. Rinsing the brush, touching the sponge, fully loading the brush, touching the previous bead, and continuing the wash down. Let's consider a situation where we want a controlled soft edge. To be able to have a controlled soft edge, we need to make sure that the mixture is thicker. We need to have at least a milk consistency mixture. Milk consistency is a 50-50 water to paint ratio. Let's adjust the yellow to the milk consistency. So it has already a little bit of water. I'm rinsing the brush, removing all the water against the sponge, picking up yellow paint and mixing it into this existing mixture. And this increases the thickness of the mixture. It also increases the tonal value of the mixes. It makes it darker, but it doesn't really concern us at the moment because we are not painting a real-life situation. So let's use these mixes and make a gradient wash with controlled soft edges. I'm rinsing the brush, touching the sponge to remove the water, picking up the paint, and making the mark. The biggest issue here is to paint quickly and keep this bead alive, because this mixture is thicker, it's milk consistency 50-50, and because it has less water, it dries quicker. So we're quickly picking up another color, touching the previous bead, and making another mark. I'm trying to mix the colors a little bit with each other, and then picking another color, touching the bead, and continuing the wash. And this is how we create soft controlled edges. Another way of doing it is mixing on the paper. So you start with a flat wash, rinse the brush, touch the sponge to remove the water, grab paint, mix, touch the sponge again to remove the water, and then paint. You touch the sponge to remove the water to make sure that the mixture that you're painting with, that pink mixture, is thicker than the previous one to avoid the blooms. Let's do this one more time. So picking up the paint, adding it to the mixture to make it thicker, loading the brush, and adding it into the previous wash. The previous wash actually had time to dry a little bit more, so the edge in between the yellow and the blue is much stronger. This is actually something to remember. The more you wait, the drier the first wash gets, the thicker the next mixture needs to be, and the more control edge you get. Let's do a little practice of what we have learned so far and paint a simple made-up landscape, basically a tree with a house in the middle. I'm going to pick up a small mauve brush. This is a Nif Elro Castagne number 00, and this is for the edges of the tree. Now I'm preparing milk consistency 50-50 water to paint ratio green color. I'm mixing yellow ochre and cobalt turquoise. Now I'm going to push the brush against the palette like that, and this will help me to create the edges of the tree. Picking up the paint again, gently this time, and now I'm painting the edges of the tree like that. This is almost done. Now we need to change the brush to pick up a larger brush because this one doesn't hold enough water. So I'm changing brush to Nif Elro Castagne number 2. We almost ran out of the mixture, so let's make some more. Same colors, cobalt turquoise and yellow ochre. And now I'm touching the previous bead, the previous wash, and filling the inside. I'm still leaving a few white beads out. This is for the branches and for the birds to fly through. Essentially right now we're making a flat wash that looks like a tree. But we could have made a square, a circle, a triangle, any shape. But we chose a tree shape and we made an outline as a tree shape, and then we filled it in with the flat wash, making brush strokes, touching the bead, and keep the bead going towards the bottom of the paper. Now it's time to paint the tree trunk, but if we forget about the fact that it's a tree trunk, we're just going to change the color to a brownish one. So I'm adding burnt sienna to the mix, and all we're gonna do is to create a multicolor flat wash. So I'm touching the previous bead with this brown color and continuing the wash towards the bottom of the paper. I'm adding a few branches here and there, but essentially I'm just taking this wash down to the ground. But now we can ask what we're going to do about the house. Same thing, I'm going to spray this lightly, very lightly, to make sure that the bead is still wet, it's running. Now I'm going to prepare a mixture for the house. So we need approximately same value, same consistency mixture. I'm grabbing whatever I have on the palette and just mixing together. This way I'm going to make sure that the mixture is same consistency and same value. So now I'm loading the brush, picking up all this paint and touching the bead of the tree and painting the roof of the house. Now I'm going to change the color, for example, to cobalt turquoise, mixing with whatever I have on the palette, and leaving a little bit of white out for the highlight on the roof, like that, and continuing the wash down, picking up more color, cobalt turquoise a bit more, because this mixture is getting really weak, so we need more color. Touching the previous bead that we didn't like, that was way too weak. Now leaving the highlight for the roof and keep painting the wash down, touching the tree for a controlled soft edge and keep working on that bead, taking it down. So this is our basic flat wash where all the shapes are connected with soft controlled edges. But flat wash is always a flat wash, no matter how much color, in other words temperature of the hue, you change. If we want to add depth into the wash, we need to do a gradient wash. We need to change the tonal value in the wash. But this is the topic for the next lesson. If you liked today's video and want to see more, please like, subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on it. Don't forget, I have Patreon with real-time instructional videos, so if you want to paint along with me, please check it out. All my patrons are extremely happy with the quality of my videos and teaching style. I'm sure you won't ever regret trading a couple of takeaway coffees on my lessons. If you're still not sure, I have a free demo. The link will be in the description down below. This is all for today. Happy painting. Until my next video. Goodbye.